Chapter 12 of the Boy Scouts Down in Dixie. This is a LibriVox recording. LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Harshal Seth. The Boy Scouts Down in Dixie by Herbert Carter. Chapter 12. Things were certainly looking much more rosy now. With an experienced swamp man to guide them, there would no longer be the danger of getting lost that had kept hovering over their heads. Then there was the white-winged dove of peace in the camp in connection with the solving of the dreadful mystery that had been bothering Giraffe and some of the others. All, in fact, but Bumpus and Step Hen for so long. They sat around the fire, which did not feel at all uncomfortable, enjoying the communion with this unique character, as Smithy privately termed the alligator skin collector. "I been hearin' a heap about this Boy Scout business," the man finally remarked, after he had been observing many of the ways of the boys that had more or less connection with their patrol teaching. "And I just don't get on the object how the same be agin to grow up to be saggers, and is them uniforms a sign of the same?" "Oh no! Like a good many other people, you've got the wrong idea of this Boy Scout business, Mr. Smith," Thad told him. "In America, the movement hasn't anything whatever to do with the military spirit, except that it tries to make a boy follow out some of the rules that soldiers are bound by. He must try and be brave, obey when ordered by one in authority, be respectful to his superiors, and keep himself clean both in mind and body. Though they don't always do that last," interjected Davy Jones, as he cast a black look towards the lolling Bumpus, who only answered him by a derisive smile and a good-natured nod. "Tell me some more, son," said the guide, showing great interest. "If them G's kin be carried out, I sure reckons I know some boys what had orter join the scout movement in a hurry." "Oh, I couldn't begin to tell you a tenth of what the scouts are supposed to do and know," Thad went on. "It's done the greatest lot of good for most of us right here. Where a boy was weak and timid, it makes him healthy and self-reliant. Where he may have been silly, he becomes thoughtful, learning to do things instead of having others do them for him. No boy can subscribe to the 12 rules that he does without it making him better in every way. Suppose you tell me what them same rules be, son, 'cause I that interested, I'd like to know," the guide went on to say. It was a subject which Thad never wearied of talking about, because his whole heart was wrapped up in it. "Why, here they are then," he remarked. "When a boy joins a patrol, he has to promise to observe what is called scout law. That is, he will do his level best to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent." "Well, now, that same sounds good to me, son," the guide went on to declare. "I just don't know plumb all you mean by some o' them words, but I get the G all right." "And," continued Thad, "you can see that even in trying to do what he promises, a boy is bound to stop telling lies, taking things that belong to others, talking meanly about his companions, and all such things." "Especially that last," broke in Bumpus, giving Davy and Giraffe an eloquent glance as he spoke. "Say, Seems to me how they might be a heap o' good in this His Scout business, Tom Smith remarked. But how about fighting, son? It didn't say anything on that line. There's nothing said about it, except that a scout must keep the peace under all circumstances, unless as a last resort, Thad told him. Go on and explain her some more, please. I don't just catch on that, the guide admitted. Why, said Thad, there may be occasions when a scout could hardly be expected to keep the peace, because he's a real flesh and blood boy, and not a saint. Sure thing, Alligator Smith remarked, with a grin as he swept his eyes around the circle of eager boyish faces. If he should be set on by a superior force, he would not be expected to stand and turn the other cheek and be mauled, Giraffe broke in with. That is, he can defend himself, you mean? Tom Smith asked. Yes, in an emergency, Thad told him. Then again, if he happened to see a big bully picking on a poor little chap, or a girl it might be, why, he'd be doing the right thing if he interfered. Even if he had to fight to get peace, chuckled Step Hen. But seems to me if this hair thing goes on, it might make the boys kinda timid. We needs brave men, such as can go to war if need be. I just don't know how that'll turn out, son. Well, I do, said the young scoutmaster firmly. I've had considerable experience with boys who became scouts. I've known lots of things who waked up and became just the opposite to what they used to be. I've seen them stop growing through the world as though they were wearing horses' blinders. And then they found 1,000 things that had been around them all the while, but they hadn't known it before. I've started them on the way to studying the habits of the birds, fishes, animals, and insects to be met with in the woods and waters until they seem to live in a different world. I've watched sleepy, dull boys change into wide-awake, alert scouts, surprising their parents and teachers in school by the new interest they took in life. But, Mr. Smith, I give you my word that I never yet knew of a true blue scout who was a coward. Hear, hear, cried Bob White, clapping his hands with delight. In fact, continued Thad enthusiastically, I've watched more than a few boys who were known to be next door to cowards change into resolute fellows, brave and self-reliant. One went into a burning house and saved an old man at the risks of his own life. Another stopped a runaway horse with as much skill as a policeman educated for the business might have shown. I knew of another who saved a drowning chum. I could tell you about a boy who hung on to a thief who was robbing a woman on the street, taking a fearful pounding, yet keeping him from running away until help came, and then fainting. Yet that same boy was afraid of his own shadow up to the time he became a scout. I never heard the like o' that, son, declared the deeply interested guide. 'Pears like they hain't nothing a scout ain't called nothing that's worthwhile, and that's the truth, Thad told him. They can win merit badges by excelling in certain lines. If you look around right now, you'll perceive that every boy in the Silver Fox Patrol of Cranford Troop wears at least one medal or badge. And let me tell you, sir, a scout is as proud of his badge as anybody could be. Wow, but sure his hay is interesting to me, the hunter assured his new friends. And I'm right glad I ran across you all like I done. Never would have believed was they was so much as was good in the head Boy Scout movement. Allers reckoned as how it mout be summit a lark, or else just a getting recruits for the soldier job. Tell me a heap more, son. I can listen to ye talk for hours. So Thad, assisted from time to time by his chums, managed to explain many interesting details connected with Boy Scout lore. It was a subject of which he never tired, and in which he believed heart and soul. Then, in turn, Thad asked questions, for he knew this man would be able to tell them many interesting facts connected with swamp life. In turn, they heard just how alligators were hunted, usually at night time with a blazing pine knot in the bow of the dugout, by means of which flare their eyes could be shined, so that a single shot would place a victim to the credit of the hide hunter. Also, how the skins were taken off, roughly cured, and what price they brought in the market. Then the willing guide told how he trapped all such animals as muskrats, raccoons, otter, foxes, and others that possessed fur worth securing. Thad knew something about the northern methods along these lines, but he found quite a difference in the way things were done down in Dixie. And now, the scoutmaster went on to say, you've told us all about the fur, fin, and feather of this big swamp. How about the human beings who live in it? We've been told there are quite a lot. Reckon you heard about right, son, admitted the guide with a smile. First, there be quite a few runaway convicts, coons that descent show themselves back where they came from. How they lives I just don't know, but my traps is empty more'n a few times, and when I see tracks on bare feet alongside, I changes the location of that victor in a hurry. I meet up with a black now and then, but they knows old Alligator Smith ain't aggin to do 'em any hurt, so they don't molest me none. Are there others besides? Asked Allen. Well, thar's a fellow I seen right smart, and folks done say as he's a bad monkey maker, what they calls a counterfeiter, though I just don't know how true that mout be. Whew, broke in Step Hen. I think a location in the heart of Alligator Swamp would be a pretty safe place for such a mint to hold out. Not much danger of the detectives and revenue men dropping in on him unexpected like. Any more? Asked Bumpus, so deeply interested by all this narrative that he had been sitting there without moving for half an hour, his big head supported by his cupped hands and his round eyes glued on Alligator Smith's face. Thar's another feller as I knows on what makes moonshine whiskey, but only in small lots, case he can't get the con he wants for his mash. Nobody ever bothers old Pap Dotty, and he's done made his stuff years and years. Seems like this old swamp might hold a lot of quiet people and their secrets, remarked Giraffe, yawning. It certain do, son, replied the other, as he helped himself for the third time to the strong coffee the boys had made for him. But then you must remember as how she covers a heap of territory. I never did know just how many miles across from east to west the swamp is. Anyway, from 10 to 20, and nigh as far from north to south. But I forgot to tell you about the voodoo doctor or medicine man. Oh, is there one of those horrible negro wizards around here? And Smithy shuddered as he put the question, showing that he must have read more or less on the subject. He holds out on the other side, so we ain't likely to run across him," Tom Smith went on. "They be heaps o' the blacks as goes reg'lar to see him, and I been told as how they have a reg'lar heathen fetish worship and dance like over in Africa. But they ain't never offered up any human sacrifice, as I heard tell on. If they knows what's good for them, they'll fight she o' that. The planners round here wouldn't stand for no such goings on as that nohow." As the boys were showing signs of weariness and the hour had grown late, the scoutmaster decided they had talked themselves out for one evening. And so he went around to make sure that everything was secure, the boats protected as on the preceding night, the paddles, as well as all else of value taken to the tents, and every object calculated to tempt a prowling negro looked after. The guide declared that he had no need of shelter, but would lie on the ground, and woe to the thief, either on 2 legs or 4, who attempted to invade the camp while he was around. His presence gave the boys much comfort. They could lie down now and go to sleep without worrying about the possibility of unwelcome visitors. And as for Thad, he shook hands with himself in imagination every time he stopped to think what a great thing the coming of Alligator Smith meant, connected with the carrying out of his plans. All doubt could now be set aside. They were not going to be lost, as had on several occasions threatened to be the case. And when the mysterious man and girl were finally found, perhaps Thad's fondest hopes would be realized. End of chapter 12. Recording by Harshal Seth.